Hello, everyone. So today we are going to talk about chapter 12, 13, 11,
12.
I don't know, 12, interpersonal conflict. There are too many chapters, which I'm already confused. So anyhow, first thing we want to know, like what's interpersonal conflict? Okay, in our daily life, not daily, in our life, we probably face, I don't know how many times, interpersonal conflicts with loved one, friends, your employers, right? So the idea for interpersonal conflict is an expressed struggle between at least two interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference from each other. Am I correct? Okay, so we are going to explain these words next slide. So what is an expressive struggle? It's verbal or nonverbal disagreement. So sometimes like anything there's this that you have disagreement with the other person, that's what we call expressive struggle. Okay, maybe just I want to go to McDonald's and you want to pick what's it?
Burger
a KFC,
Yeah.
right? Burger King, right? So we have different like we cannot find a common agreement. So that's what we call verbal or non-verbal disagreement. And between two interdependent parties. That means these two parties are related to each other. That depends on each other. That's why they care, right? If it's a stranger who want to go to McDonald's, like, why should I care? So that means these two people, these two parties care about each other. Mm-hmm. And they with perceived incompatible goals. Why? Because what they want are different. Okay, is it scarce resources? Okay, so like marital objects, time, money. For some people, it's like, oh, I don't have money, but I have a lot of time. They can just stay here with you and wait for you, right? But for some people, they don't have time and money to do this. So when they have these conflicts, some people will win, some people will lose, or sometimes they can find a common goal between them. And next one is interference from each other. Right? Physical obstructions, political maneuvering, or unwillingness to express or provide support. So they made the other person feel like you are not with me. Okay, sometimes you say already you against the other person. Sometimes just, and I think unwillingness to express or provide support. It's very important. A lot of people ignore this. They don't think, oh, when I say, Mark, what do you think about this? You just say, you don't show any emotions and show any like agree or disagree. They also say something.
Right? Yes.
When you don't provide support, that means something. Okay. You say, oh, I didn't say no, but you didn't say yes either.
Right, and you didn't show that you cared at all.
So yes, so can you go back to the earlier slide? So this is a definition of interpersonal conflict that include all these criteria. Okay, next. So there are several natural parts of relationships. Okay, conflict is a natural part of relationship. When you have with the other person, you have conflict at a certain level. Okay, do you want to add anything here for the second one?
For the can foster growth if managed well? Yeah, I think sometimes we think it's just negative, but not necessarily. You know, if you manage it well, like we talked about in the other chapters, work things out, conflict, because it is a natural part of relationships, it can be positive. It doesn't have to be negative, but we're going to talk about ways that it becomes negative.
Next one. So communication is both source of conflict and remedy for conflict. So, well, there's a role of communication in a relationship, right? Sometimes when you the more you communicate, you say, remember in first chapter, we say more communication, the better. Actually, no. Sometimes when you have more communication, you have more conflict, right? always remedy. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Okay, next one. It makes management a challenge. Do you have any example?
Oh, a million, but I think it's you know, from both sides of it, from being an employee and from managing people. But I think too, what is important in these situations, like as an employee, is to kind of put yourself, and sometimes you don't want to because the person makes more money than you, they may not be the nicest person on the planet, but it's important to put yourself in the shoes of your boss. You know, you're not getting along with somebody else. What would this be like if somebody was trying to manage us? Okay, it is challenging because you're trying to make everybody happy to a degree, right? And if you're the person standing in the way of that, that's not going to be good for anybody, including yourself.
Yeah, so it could be a challenge. Next one, it needs skill development to deal with conflict well. So it can be trained. We can practice how to manage conflict. And that's what we are going to address here in this chapter. Okay, next.
And you know, I like the fact that it says development, not just you need skills to know it, that you're not going to just be given those skills. Like you said, you have to practice. It can be a learned behavior, but it's not going to come just naturally, necessarily.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, so here is a question for you. You don't need to write it down, but think about this. What if I ask you, what's a metaphor for conflict to you? Okay, conflict is like blank. What would you write? Okay, so for some people, it's pretty positive. It could be next. Positive. It could be a game. Conflict is like a game. Conflict is like dance. Conflict is like exercise. Okay, so you need to think about it. You need to practice this like dance. But it also could be a negative. Conflict is like a war, fight, explosion. Okay, so for you, is it positive or negative? Or maybe both, right? Depends on the situation. Okay, next one. There are different reasons for conflicts. First, parties have different information. Sometimes one person knows more information than the other. That's why they will make different decisions, right? They have different ideas because they don't. It's inequity. They don't have a lot of enough information in the relationship.
Right. I think you see this a lot today on, if you follow any kind of like 24/7 news on television, right? Because there are some like NPR, you know, National Public Radio on television that is objective, but for the most part, you know, one channel's going to lean left, one's going to lean right, and you're going to only be given in the extremes, right? Typically the information that supports those two parties, right? Those two groups. So you're going to be missing out on a lot of information. So if you try to talk to someone, you're coming from two totally different places, right? If you're in conflict, just because you don't have the same information as the other person. Right.
So yeah, NPR is my favorite. That's how I learned English.
You did? Oh, good.
Using NPR. Okay, so yeah, I think it's good. Parties have different interpretations. Even same party have same information. Like if Mark and I listen to NPR, the same program, we probably have different interpretation. Why? Because we have different background, different ethnicities, different past, different experience. So the way we interpret same idea, same situation will be different. That's why sometimes there's conflict arise. Okay. All right. Next one. Parties' conclusion reflects self-interest. Okay, this is interesting. Can you click one more and explain this one?
Yeah, go to the next one also. Okay.
So there's an idea called confirmation bias.
Right. And exactly like it says, it is the tendency to look for, interpret, and you remember information that's consistent with what you believe or what you want to happen. So in other words, let's take the NPR, you know, example. We listen to the same stories, you know, same television program, and I'm hearing what drives home the point I believe, right? I think the protesters are right. I think that, you know, they have a reason. They're exercising their First Amendment, and this is really important. Freedom of speech is very, very important if they're not causing trouble. The other person watching the same newscast could listen and really, you know, extrapolate that part of it that deals with the reason they should be arrested. And so so you walk away having watched the same thing, but because of the confirmation bias, just taking, you know, two totally different sets of perspective.
Yeah, so that's what we call confirmation bias. And also we are going to attach one link for you. If you want to know what confirmation bias more, you can click the link and watch the video online on YouTube. Okay, next. So there are some problematic behavior they have in the relationships, and that's what we call four horsemen. Okay, this is pretty famous theory, the famous ideas in interpersonal relationships area. Okay, which are in criticism, one, contempt, and defensiveness, as well as stonewalling. Okay, so the first thing, criticism, the expression of disapproval of someone or something based on perceived fault in a person or behavior. Okay, Mark, some examples here.
Yeah, well, this one's pretty self-explanatory, I think. You know, we criticize people all the time, but it is normally about our, you know, perceived faults. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be real, may or may not be, right? But we criticize people based on kind of, you know, what our expectation is. You know, I disapprove of you because, and a lot of times people will try to, I think, gloss over it by saying, you know, I don't mean to criticize, or not to be critical. Well, that's exactly what you're doing. So if you're going to do this problematic behavior, own it.
Yeah. I don't mean to, but like, you already do it, right?
Yes.
Next. Yeah, you can have negative or positive contributions to a relationship, though. Depends on your manner use and what language you use. So vocabulary you use is actually pretty important when you criticize a person, right? Sometimes it could be, oh, thank you for your suggestions. Sometimes just like you've already heard the other person's feelings.
Right.
Next one.
Right.
So the positive one, that's what we call constructive criticism. Okay, when criticism is focused on behavior. Okay, example?
Well, let's say that you know, someone's just learning how to dance, okay? A good teacher will say, awesome, let's try this. When you put your leg out, you know, like this, really aim for up there, you know, they'll say it in a way, right? The behavior, you know, when you're doing it, they won't attack the person, right? And say, you know, that is the wrong way to do that. You're not doing it right at all. You can't do it like that. This is the right way. Look at her. She'll show you how to do it the right way over there. Wow, I feel so defeated now, like I don't measure up, and now I've got to try to earn back somebody's respect for me, right? When it could have just been there all along if they were just doing it in a constructive way.
Yeah, so that's what we call constructive criticism. Next one, for negative one, called destructive criticism. It's focused on personality or characteristic. Okay, you don't dance well because you don't pay attention. You don't dance well because you suck. You know, like you attack the other person. That's what we call destructive criticism. Okay, so criticism. Next one is what we call contempt. The expression of insults and disdain of all people, their behavior and their ideas. This is hard.
It's hard. This is what you see on Facebook from people who don't use it properly, or anywhere, you know, or Twitter, or, you know, really any social media. If you're not using it in the right way, and we've all been, I know I have been guilty of this, if you're not using it in the right way, you're exercising contempt.
Next one. Exclusive. Well, this is only negative. Why? Because kind of like you look someone down. You look down someone, right? So that means you don't value the other person's behavior and who they are. Okay, next one. Negative impact on the receiver and often diminish his or her self-esteem in the relationship. And this is another way, like abusive relationship, right? In a relationship, if one person use contempt behavior to the other person, they will make the other person feel so small and feel worthless. This not good.
I can't stand the way you always blah blah blah. This is my contempt. This is my disdain, right, for you, because I'm exercising insults when I do it.
Okay, next one. Defensiveness. Okay, so it's behavior that create a defensive communication climate. First, for example, you control the other person's behavior. Don't do this. Okay, you cannot go out. You cannot drink. You cannot. So that you control the other person's behavior, withhold information to get what you want.
Right. And again,
remain neutral. Next one, you remain neutral and not express empathy or sympathy for the other person.
And that's the part that we always talk about, Dr. Chang, you know, like how's the other person going to view this? How are they going to respond to this? And when you're getting defensive about something, you're not thinking about that at all.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is what this paragraph talk about, right? Do you want to add anything for defensiveness?
Well, no, I think here, you know, like this says it does stand in the way, right, from seeing your role and responsibility in the situation when you're just getting defensive. And you see this a lot, again, in politics, right, where especially it seems like with this administration, like it or not, right, where I have never witnessed in my life before where the media asks a question and instead of answering it to the best of the ability becomes defensive against the media. Well, you're so low rated that this is exactly why people don't want to, or what a nasty question, or why are you asking that? Or, you know, it's just like you to want to know that. Boy, that's being very defensive.
And that's what causes conflicts, right?
Exactly. Okay. Because you're not answering the question, because now we're on a whole different path.
So not good.
No.
Next one. No. Okay, so the last problematic behavior in the relationship is stonewalling. It's complete withdrawal from the conflict, both physically and verbally. So basically just ignore the other person. Okay, you build a wall between you and the other person. Okay.
You see this all the time too.
Yeah.
You know, people just, it would be like leaving the room, not wanting to talk to someone, you know, but like you said, just sitting there, not paying attention, right? You see that, you see this a lot.
So you will see in a relationship, I read an article, it says nagging is one thing that causes relationship bad, one reason. But like stonewalling is usually the person who receives nagging. When will it be end?
Yeah.
How long will it take? Like this kind of stonewalling, so the person doesn't want to react.
Right. True. Yeah.
Yeah. The next one. So again, just try to remind. This is a reminder. Okay. So there are 4 horsemen in a relationship. It's what we call criticism, contempt, next defensiveness, and stonewalling. Okay. Next slide. Let me see. So again here. Oh. No, we don't need to watch this.
No.
YouTube link. I think we are not going to provide this one. So wait, I think let's start the video here. Okay, the first recording.
Okay.
So and then we are going to watch the second recording. So you can take a break here. Let's try to refresh what's the definition of interpersonal conflicts. How can we manage conflicts here? Okay. Bye-bye.
That's great. Okay. We'll see you, everybody. Bye-bye.